I think every entrepreneur should realize that they can't do it all and they can't do it well. As we touched on earlier, figure out what you love, delegate the rest, especially as a mom who's an entrepreneur. People are like, well, how do you do it all? I'm like, I literally do not. There's only 24 hours in a day. And I mean, that's turned into, I haven't done laundry in 10 years. I don't cook. I don't clean. Like, I just don't. And I've freed myself up from the constraints of feeling like I have to do that to be, contributing to my household well. And that's a bit of a challenge for some people. They feel like they have to take on all of this stuff at the expense of their time. And that's just not something that I'm willing to do. And I'm not going to feel bad about it either.
I'm David, host of the Horizon Search podcast, and joining me is my partner in crime, Becky Heyman. And so we have prepared for your interview. Thank you for you or your team filling out the intake form. And we looked at your media already, your website, etc. So we prepared some general questions to ask you, but I want to check and make sure that this serves you. Is there anything in particular you would like to focus on? And for what it's worth, anything you prefer that we not talk about?
I'm an open book. No topics are off limits for you guys. I am happy to see where this conversation goes organically. I'm happy to chat all things entrepreneurship, short-term rental businesses and real estate investing, as well as my coaching business. That's been a really interesting endeavor in scaling over the last year and a half. So wherever you guys want to take it, I have a background as a COO, so systems, processes, automations.
Wow.
And I'm a mom, so I can really go anywhere you guys want to take it.
Okay. So we've scheduled 5 hours for this podcast. That sounds good. And yeah, maybe we could do a part 2. Sounds like there's a lot that you have to share. What was I going to say? Oh, pronunciation for your name. Is it Maline Rayford?
It's Maline Rayford Holland.
Maline Rayford Holland. Thank you.
A's and the I's and the E's and the I's.
I know, it's so confusing.
Make different noises.
Yeah. Lived in a couple places as well, which might maybe helped, maybe hurt my understanding of pronunciation. So thank you for correcting that, Maline Rayford Holland. I just want to get that right for the end when we refer people to your website, etc.
Thank you so much.
So you can hear us okay? You can see us okay?
I can. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You've built a real thriving community with over 2 million members. Could you talk to us a little bit, or maybe for other entrepreneurs in the audience, about how you built your community and how that's helped your business?
Absolutely. So when I was first leaving college and university, I started my career in a family business, which happened to be a government contracting company that I had really grown up in. And I started as the COO of that company. What that meant was I was spending 150 to 200 nights a year in hotels. And I started this lifestyle website called Moderately High Maintenance, which my husband says there's nothing moderate about the high maintenance aspect of it anymore. But what that was, it was a lifestyle website that talked about travel and different experiences. And it was just a creative outlet for me to share all of my travels while I was on the road for work. It was the fun part of the, government kind of boring travel stuff. And so what that did was I set a goal for myself to be consistent with posting content. I did a blog post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was showing up consistently on social media. Rain or shine, convenient, not convenient. It really got me in the habit of cranking out content and improving the quality of content, which I think is so important for entrepreneurs and people who are looking to build a personal brand and an audience is showing up consistently and learning how to do high quality content very well, but also in a short amount of time. So in that whole endeavor, I started doing these collaborations with household brands. So with that consistency and that high quality content, I started doing collaborations with household names like Delta Airlines, Target, Walmart, Wayfair, a lot of these bigger brands. And I learned that showing up professionally in those types of collaborations and leveraging those connections can be huge as a jumping point off. And so when my husband and I were looking to start investing in real estate for the tax benefits here in the US, we started MHM, moderately high maintenance, luxury properties. And we took all of the products and collaborations that I had done with my years of being an influencer and put that into a physical manifestation in that property itself. So people who had been with me for years could have an experience in the properties that we created. It was so wildly successful that we opened and scaled that business to 5 more properties in 6 months, and then a multi-7-figure business that it is now in 3 years. So I think just consistency and quality of content is just one of the biggest lessons that I've learned so far in this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Madeline. And full transparency, this is our first podcast that we're co-hosting. So I want to just give a wide berth for my gracious co-host here and just let Becky, and we can edit this part out, of course. But Becky, did you want to add any follow-on, or should I continue?
So I wanted to pick up on the showing up consistently and finding a way to get out high quality content. For you, was that a trial and error thing? Like, did you sort of figure out what ended up landing better? Did you do courses? Like, where did you find how to get the good quality?
I think it was figuring out what worked, but part of that process was knowing to a certain extent, done is better than perfect, and then figuring out the systems and the processes of repurposing content and doing the prep work. So during that time when I was learning how to create high quality, I started to batch create content. So I would do a month's worth of content in a Tuesday afternoon. I'd have a photographer. I would have, hair and makeup done, anything that I wanted and the topics that I wanted to cover. I did the planning and the prep work so that I could do it in an afternoon, and I could plan to succeed there and batch create that content, which is something that was a little bit of trial and error in the beginning. It was taking up a lot of my time to create that high quality. It was like, how do I do this better? How do I do it faster? And how do I prepare to succeed with that? Which was something that did come with trial and error, but it was also giving myself the grace to learn and improve, and then ultimately be able to do it at a high level, faster, and a way that we could scale.
Pivoting to coaching for a moment, you've transitioned from building your own portfolio to helping others create thriving short-term rental businesses. Could you talk about your motivation? Like, where did you start with the coaching, and what sets your approach apart?
Yeah. So you guys asked if I did, some courses and things when I was starting with my personal brand and content creation. The answer was no on that side of things. But with taking a dive into the short-term rental space, I spent over $50,000 on coaching and mentorship, and ultimately was pretty disappointed because what a lot of the gurus were doing were giving you all of this big picture information that I found really difficult to take down to my specific nuanced financial situation, my markets, my goals for my business. And ultimately, I created something that wasn't anywhere else in the market because we focus on a small but mighty portfolio and that elevated guest experience so that my clients are competing on value, not having to drive bottom basement prices. And so when I was getting started with the coaching, I vowed to do things differently and give people a hand-holding experience from day one. So all of my clients get one-on-one mentorship. They get me and my coaches in their corner with private channels. They start with an initial deep dive call where we find out where they are, where they've been, and, ultimately how we get them to where they want to be. Because the real estate industry as a whole is so specific to the individual and the market. And a lot of people have been told, oh, well, you don't have this much cash, so I don't think you can get started in this. I don't think that's true. Where there's a will, there's a way. And if you're an action taker, like my team is there to support folks 1,000%. But the other really different thing that we do is we don't do a done for you situation. We want to teach our clients how to fish and have these profitable businesses. We're not going to fish for them, but we are going to teach them how to set up the systems, processes, automations that I learned from my years as a COO to create that time freedom so they're only in their businesses a few hours a week.
I love that, the time freedom thing. I was reading on your website and on your social media, you reference that a lot. Out of interest, was that the main drive to get into real estate from your side? Was it the time freedom thing? So it sounds like you were very busy with a lot of your traveling and COO work before then.
Absolutely. So I remember a time distinctly where my husband and I were sitting at our kitchen table with our 6-month-old our new son, our first, and my husband was traveling for work. I was traveling for work, and we said, something has got to give. We cannot continue on this hamster wheel of what we're doing. Like I mentioned, my business was a family business. It was never my intention to leave it, but we wanted John to be able to leave his 9-to-5, to have the freedom to spend time with, our little guy. So at least only one of us was traveling and we could maybe have that flexibility to go. We've since both transitioned out of our 9-to-5s and into this real estate investing, but we have the ability to choose how we spend our time, which is a luxury that I'll never take for granted.
A lot of people see the Airbnb game in the short-term rental space. You have a lot more experience than most. Could you share what are some of the pitfalls that you're seeing people kind of fall into when they start renting out property short-term?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. So one of the biggest things is they get into it thinking that it's how it was during the pandemic or even before, where just throwing up any property is going to be successful on there. There was the heyday of Airbnb where folks could just, literally put up their couch. That's how it started. And they would get bookings. And you may have seen in the news people talking about an Airbnb bust and the market is dying and all this stuff. And it is for the people who are hobby hosts. And those are the people who are not treating it like a business, who are not creating that elevated guest experience that I talked about. And the other pitfall is not automating their business from day one. So when they don't have a property management software that they're able to, make sure that they're consistently sending out those guest communications, consistently checking up on their clears and providing that upper echelon hospitality experience for people, those two things are the biggest pitfalls that I've seen. Makes
sense. So out of interest, I'm kind of pivoting back now to coaching, because I saw that you have 100% success rate with your mentorship program, which is incredible. How are you able to achieve that? And how is that defined? How do you define success there? And how do you achieve that for your clients?
So the people who show up consistently, who participate in the program, the people who are actively following our instructions, all of them are going through the process and coming out with profitable short-term rental businesses at the end. So that's one, how we define it. But two, we're very specific about who we work with. The people who are our success strategists who hop on the first call with people, I tell them all the time, if they're not action takers, they're not willing to put in the work, if they don't have a growth mindset, we're probably not going to be the best fit for them. I don't offer a guarantee for people because it's not a done for you program and I can't guarantee the work and the effort that you're going to put in. But if you follow the roadmap that we give you, everyone who has followed that roadmap has come out successfully at the end.
That's really important, being deliberate with who you're taking on, increasing the probability for success there.
We're not for everybody. but we do match people's efforts 1,000%, whoever joins.
You only get as good as you give, ultimately. So, yeah.
You're an advocate for both financial freedom as well as time freedom. That's a balance that many miss. You mentioned about automation. Could you talk about some other steps that you would recommend rental investors take to achieve that balance?
Yes, I just finished reading and led a discussion on the book Who Not How. Have either of you guys read that book?
Heard of it, not read it.
It's a phenomenal book that really helps you get out of the mindset of everything is responsible and on my shoulders to I can achieve the results faster if I find somebody who specializes it and I can stay in my zone of genius. And so what I tell our coaching clients all the time is we want to figure out what you love about this business really quickly and then delegate the rest of it. So if you're an engineer who loves data, loves running numbers, you are going to love the analysis and acquisition portion of it. And I'm going to teach you how to underwrite a deal better than anybody out there. But then I have some people who are like, I just want to do the design. I have Pinterest board upon Pinterest board, and I don't really love to run the numbers. I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how to get past that point as quickly as possible so you can get into the part where you actually thrive. And finding the people who are your who's in this business is crucial. Your network is your net worth. And finding somebody who is several steps ahead of you in the process and doing what you're already doing, you're going to shortcut that path to success. And figuring out what they are doing to create that time freedom, not just the financial freedom, is going to be pivotal in your journey.
That makes a lot of sense, in the sense that if you've got a goal, for example, that you want a lot of time, but that you take on all of those things to do with the business, then you're probably not achieving the time goal. And part of that might be automation through AI, I'm sure, nowadays, or through processes, or through other people, to allow you to do what you enjoy most, which means you're more likely to do it, and then give you that time back as well.
Absolutely.
Do you see some people struggle to let go of some parts of that business?
In the beginning, yes. Especially people who have perfectionistic tendencies. And I've struggled with that myself in the past, but that's where having those clear systems, processes, automations, those SOPs, that when you are going through the process yourself, when you know how you like things done, I always like to tell people, use Loom to video yourself doing it. Use a tool called Scribe. That's a favorite one that tracks keystrokes. And start building out that database for yourself. So you're only doing it one time, and then people, your team, can go and track it and learn without you having to be physically present to train them. But also, that I touched on earlier, is done is better than perfect. And just because it's not the way that you would have necessarily done it, it doesn't mean it's wrong per se. And once you can get into that mindset, and again, I would highly recommend anybody listening to this to read the book Who Not How. I was already practicing a lot of it, but it even gave better tools to really empower the who's in your life so that you can focus on achieving what is best for you to achieve in your business and ultimately achieve more.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I'll definitely pick that up. How do you see the short-term rental industry evolving over the next few years?
Great question. I see it professionalizing even more. So we're seeing a lot of over-the-top experiences, and also people offering more and more amenities and concierge services, which I love to see. As a host that focuses on creating that elevated guest experience, I just see the cream raising to the top, and the people who are doing that well continuing to grow and expand in this business, where the folks who are just hobby hosts, like I said, just continuing to do less and less well and ultimately getting out of the space. So that increases the competition, but it's also encouraging because it's something that people can do about it. They are in total control of the experience that they have for their guests. They're in control of the design that they do for their properties. They're in control of creating those systems and processes of that. And that's what I encourage people to do, is just up level yourself elevate your guest experience and who you are as a host, and you have absolutely nothing to worry about. Ooh, the other thing. Oh, do you mind if I expand?
Please.
Is host adding multiple streams of revenue to their business. So I mentioned before all of my years as an influencer and how we took those brand collaborations and put it into the physical property itself. So the other way that we have grown our profit in our business is we make every single one of our properties shoppable. So the guests love the sheets. They love the couch. They love the lamp. They're able to scan a QR code and it takes them to a list of everything in the property so that they can buy it. And I earn 10 to 15% of affiliate revenue on top of that. And where this is so powerful is in this digital age of Amazon, shopping online, people don't get to experience products anymore. When was the last time you went to a mall? Walked in a Crate and Barrel? Probably a little bit of a while. When was the last time you got to try a product out before it showed up in your house? So turning each one of these properties, I made over $100,000 last year in affiliate revenue just from people shopping their stays. And that's what I see hosts needing to do more of to continue to grow and expand their business.
That's not something that takes, coming back to the time element, that's not something that takes a lot of effort or that takes a lot of time. It's already there.
You do it one time. And guests join our email marketing list around the holidays. Do you need an exciting gift for, somebody who you don't know what to buy for? You loved the sheets in our property. Here's a link to gift to your next person. It's so easy to grow and expand your business and turn guests into repeat guests and raving fans.
Would you say those things are more important than, because whenever you think of property, I always just think location, right? Is the experience more important than the location, or would you say that they're just two variables that contribute to the same thing?
They're both important. I think they're both important. You can kind of get away with a lackluster location if you go really over the top with the experience. But I would say buy based on location because you can always improve the experience. Location is not something that's easily changed. So if you're in the mountains and you don't have water, like a creek or a mountain view, that's really hard to overcome.
You've coached many clients and you have a wealth of experience. I'm wondering at this point, you shared a lot of wisdom and great insights so far, but what is like one thing top of mind you think every entrepreneur should know?
That's a great question. I think every entrepreneur should realize that they can't do it all and they can't do it well. As we touched on earlier, figure out what you love, delegate the rest. Especially as a mom who is an entrepreneur, people are like, well, how do you do it all? I'm like, I literally do not. There's only 24 hours in a day. And I mean, that's turned into, I haven't done laundry in 10 years. I don't cook. I don't clean. Like, I just don't. And I've freed myself up from the constraints of feeling like I have to do that to be, contributing to my household well. And that's a bit of a challenge for some people. They feel like they have to take on all of this stuff at the expense of their time. And that's just not something that I'm willing to do. And I'm not going to feel bad about it either.
I'm absolutely with you on that. I've had a cleaner for years and I would never not do that. I think it might be Tony Robbins that talks about it, or it's out in the world, the different ways money can make you happy. And it's not that the money makes you happy, it's what it does for you. And part of what it does is relieve us of having to do things that we don't like or that we don't want to do, freeing up our time to do things that do bring us joy, whether that's be with your family or sit on the couch, whatever. But you've got the choice.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Just the freedom to be able to choose how I want to do it. My brother-in-law loves laundry. Like, loves it. He says it's a stress release for him. The act of folding is just cathartic. And I'm like, whatever you're into, I did not get blessed with that trade or not blessed with that trade. But if that's what brings you joy, like by all means, outsource something else. But, having the freedom to choose is what it's all about.
You mentioned your mission is to help others, inspire others that might feel chained or trapped with golden handcuffs, become more entrepreneurial, in this case through short-term rentals. But I kind of sense that it was more like general as well. Could you talk about, like, personally where that comes from? Where did that mission originate? Did you feel trapped by golden handcuffs, and why is it important for you that others have an outlet there?
So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad, as I mentioned, owned that government contracting company, and I had the opportunity to be mentored under him, who is one of the greater entrepreneurs in my life. And it was such an honor to be able to spend, years learning under him and just the ins and outs of business. So golden handcuffs, probably not, but feeling the freedom to create life on my terms and pursue my joys and my passions was a bit of a struggle for me, because I felt like, and this was not imposed by him or either one of my parents whatsoever, but I personally had to come to the realization in my own life that leaving that family business because it wasn't my passion wasn't a bad thing. I wasn't going to disappoint my parents. And I think golden handcuffs can look like a lot of different things for people and the individual. And at the end of the day, what I want to encourage people to do is be able to have the freedom and the honesty with themselves. Like, when you're quiet and by yourself, is this a hell yes for me? Because if it's not an absolute hell yes, then it's a hell no. And I lived for several years I love working with my dad, but I can kind of get down with government contracting. It's not the end of the world. It's all right. But it wasn't a hell yes for me. And being able to take all that I've learned from my time underneath my dad as a mentor and be able to really flourish in my own entrepreneurial experience has really just exploded my creativity and my passion for what I do. And the funny thing is, I now run and manage 2 short-term rental properties for my dad and my mom. And they're just thrilled to be able to see me be able to pursue my life passion. And so my encouragement for folks is, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. And have the courage to step out and create the life that you want to live. Whatever those golden handcuffs look for you, or the hamster wheel that you're on, you have the ability to change that and create the life you want.
I think people need nowadays that empowerment, because I think it's very easy to feel like we're stuck. We have to do what we have to do, be that obligation to our family or obligation to our bosses or to our careers. Or there's so many people that ended up doing a job that was their degree because they feel like it was a waste of their degree if they didn't do that. And it's not a hell yes for them. So I love that empowerment to say you can follow your hell yes, whatever that is, and you're not doing anything wrong by doing that. Like, free yourself to do it.
Free yourself to do it. I have a biology degree. I thought that I wanted to go to medical school. And then 2 years into university, I was like, you know what? Blood and guts kind of make me throw up. So this isn't going to be a good fit. Yeah. But they told me I was going to have to spend an extra year if I wanted to change my major. And I was like, well, I don't really want to do that either. So I finished a degree that I wasn't super interested in, but threw myself into different business internships and experiences and gained things that way. But I view that time as a way to teach me how to find information and kind of sort through how to acquire knowledge and be okay with taking a shift in my path that served me later on in life when it was time to say, all right, I'm at a crossroads. Which way do I go?
I like the way that you put that. The book, Who Not How, duly noted, but I'm seeing now a how not what from your decision making in terms of critical thinking. So you're father, it seems, either intentionally or otherwise, maybe taught you to fish, or you learned how to fish rather than just taking a fish. And you've started this kind of chain reaction now where you're seeing value, kind of unrealized value in a lot of different aspects. So you mentioned the short-term rental. Many people, myself included, would stop at, is the place clean? Like, is it in a nice location, et cetera? And you're like, well, there's products everywhere. Like, we could turn this into a shopping mall experience, as much or as little as they want. Like, if you don't like shopping malls, you're none the wiser. If you do, you can buy this bed linen, et cetera. I'm curious, is that something that's like always on for you, or is it something you can kind of ramp up and ramp down? Because if so, I was curious if you could shed some light for us, like, where else are you seeing value in the world that isn't being realized?
I think one of the things that my dad also like hammered home in me that's been a theme throughout my life is change always brings opportunity. And so a lot of times change is difficult to embrace, but looking at every change and every crossroads as a way to have opportunity, and looking at things, systems and processes specifically, as a way of improvement, or how do we meet the needs of somebody, is always kind of on. It's hard for me to go to restaurants. Surely it's hard to stay at Airbnbs, other people's Airbnbs, because I'm always like, I wonder if they'd be offended if I sent them a message of how they could be doing this. I don't typically, unless asked for. I try not to give unsolicited advice, but it is a little bit difficult to turn off some of the, I'm trying to think of a specific thing that would be widely applicable to folks as far as opportunities there. I think when looking at somebody's business as a whole is looking at the ways, if your customer is excited about what you do and they love what you do, give them an opportunity to say yes again to something else that you do. And I see so many people missing out on giving customers additional opportunities to say yes and building that lifetime value of the customer. You've already sold them once. They love doing business with you. Give them a way to say yes again, but meet their needs and meet it really, really well.
I think that's one of the great things. So my background's in sales, and there's a big crossover there, and nearly always you have the expectation as a buyer, what you expect is here, but probably they're going to fall short of that, right? They've oversold me and underdelivered. But it sounds like you're kind of flipping that. You're so over-delivered that people are going to end up being your biggest fans naturally. And why not help them more and give them better experiences? And then also you reap the rewards. It's a win-win-win in every scenario. And I love things like that. There's no need for anybody to lose in a transaction.
Totally. And what we're seeing in our coaching business right now is the clients who started with us with no short-term rentals, they're getting to a point of scaling to 2 or 3 properties. And they're asking, how do you manage this business at scale? How do you bring on virtual professionals who are from overseas? How do we make sure that communication is well? So we've expanded our offerings to grow with our clients and try to anticipate the bottlenecks that they're going to have in their business as they've grown and scaled, the ones that I faced when I was getting started. And it's turned into us creating more and more opportunities to teach and grow with them, because they've grown out of, not the basic, but they started as very beginners and now they're intermediate and advanced students, and we're having to expand our offerings to meet their need and give them an opportunity to say yes again, which is lots of fun. Job security.
You mentioned prediction there. Could you share with us maybe some bottlenecks that you didn't quite predict, and maybe share what that looked like?
Yes. So when I was getting started, I said, I've got the systems and processes, the guest communication is automated. I'm expanding to multiple different markets. So we host in Georgia, Florida, Tennessee on the property management side of things, and said, I got this processes. I'm managing it at 1 to 2 hours a week. I should be fine as we grow and scale. And that's good for 98% of the time. But then there are still just these one-off questions that we get, the quality control aspect of it, and figuring out how to maintain the same level of customer experience as you scale beyond. We manage 16 now. So sometimes we'll have 16 people checking in and checking out, all in one day. And so affordably being able to have a force multiplier there was big in still maintaining the time freedom aspect of it. And that's when we eventually hired a virtual professional. We actually hired them from Airbnb directly. So I poached one of their training managers, actually 3 now as I've done it, but creating and having those systems and processes, that clear communication in place, allowed us to scale well and communicate that well, but just knowing how to multiply yourself in your team was one of the original bottlenecks that we faced, one that we've done fairly well. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Of course, I think anytime you're investing in real estate, being able to creatively finance is another bottleneck that you always have. You almost have to unlearn everything that you've been taught about money for your entire life.
That is good.
Yeah, leveraging debt, getting creative financing is a tough pill to swallow as you scale when it's been ingrained in you your entire life. Don't have to, get out of debt as quickly as possible. So I think that was one of the other big bottlenecks that we had to face early on.
So I have a question that's now going back multiple steps, maybe even multiple years. And it's a basic question. Why short-term rental and not long-term rental? What was the drive towards the short-term?
So I had experience managing a long-term rental portfolio in the past, and some absolute horror stories that essentially boiled down led to tenants and toilets were not for me. The return on investment for the time that it takes was just not there. And a lot of times good cash flow for a long-term rental is about $100 to $200 a month. And so in order to actually replace an income, it can take years and years and years to actually be able to get to a point where it supports what your 9 to 5 was doing. And so the cash flow and the return on investment for short-term rentals is significantly higher. And the other thing is, I actually feel good about doing short-term rentals. I'm design and curate the space. I pour my heart and soul into it. We maintain it at a high level. So we have cleaners in there after every single guest. And it's work I can be proud of. I like the business because there's enough of it that you can systematize, that you can build in these processes so it runs well. But there's also enough newness with every property that you're designing. I've always said I'm a pioneer, not a settler. But to a certain extent, I like the settling aspect so I can hand it off to somebody and it still continue to run on autopilot. But being able to find new properties, design them, and really have that new challenge is something that's been very rewarding about short-term rentals as opposed to long-term.
That sounds fun. I'd like to talk a little bit about your approach to team building. You mentioned how it's important to delegate and partner. Could you talk to us about your own internal systems? How do you determine who makes a good partner, supplier or employee?
So I hire a lot just from interactions with people, and everyone on my team is handpicked, and I trust my gut a lot with it. I'm big on, I'm a bit of a visionary myself, and so I have to have that integrator, the EOS system with that. But a lot of it is how I work with that person, or if somebody on my team says, hey, I need I need to delegate this portion. I like this person because I work well with them. I think the relationship aspect is huge for us. I have all the SOPs in place. We can train people fairly easily, but a lot of times I find my people out in the wild networking. Tell me more about, what you're excited about. What are you working on? What are your, just getting into what makes them tick. And you'll be surprised at who presents themselves. Somebody I just recently brought on our team as a consultant. It was a salesperson. And I was on a call that they were closing as the salesperson. And we hopped on a second call and I said, I want to compliment you. You were by far, that was one of the best experiences that I've had on a sales call. And it didn't feel like that. You got to the root of what I needed, yada, yada. Long story short, he's coming on and helping my team do more of that because I said, that's what I need. It's just an it factor of knowing what I like to work with, who is going to fit well with the rest of the team, and just trusting my gut on it.
That's often overlooked. And as much as I'm all for data in the business space, in any space, sometimes we can focus too much on that and too much on what degree somebody has, kind of coming back to that, rather than does it feel right to work with this person? And we might be wrong on our gut instinct sometimes, but a lot of the time, that feeling that we have when we first meet someone or in the first few interactions tells us a lot about what's to come in that relationship.
You are completely right. I'm trying to think about the last 5 hires that I did. I don't even think I looked at a CV or a resume on it. And they've been phenomenal culture fits, and they've overperformed in their roles. I don't know where they went to college, if they even went to college. All I know is they showed up, they did whatever they were going to do, like to the best of their ability. And I think that speaks volumes. When you can have the privilege to observe somebody when they don't realize that you're thinking about hiring them for something else, and you can see how they show up without anything like that on the line, that says more than a job interview or a resume to me any single day.
There's a balance to be struck between the art and science. Or Becky and I were chatting on a previous conversation about the mind and the heart, the kind of balance there between like just feeling like the ancient wisdom of just knowing that something is right. Like you said, the hell yes earlier. If that's not there, like, just note that. So Madeline, I want to just point people to your website, MadelineRayfordHolland.com. Is there anywhere else that you would like people to visit if they want to follow along with what you're doing?
You can find me on Instagram at Maline Rayford Holland. And just want to note, folks, if you're listening and not looking at the show notes, I have an extra E in my name. So it's Madeleine, Rayford Holland, Raiford, no hyphen, and socials, Holland. You can find me on Instagram there or on LinkedIn. We share a lot of content, but Instagram is really where I show up. You can see behind the scenes and really where I'm able to share more of my heart and my soul behind this business and encourage people to create that time and financial freedom through short-term rentals.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you feel we should highlight?
You guys did a great job. I think we covered a wide range of topics today. Any final questions you guys want to tackle that we may have not gotten to?
What's your goal by the end of the decade? It's coming up fast.
It'll be here before we know it. I mean, we're halfway through at this point. That's a challenging question. I would love to help at least 5,000 more families achieve that time and financial freedom by the end of the decade. We're going to continue to grow our real estate portfolio, but just continuing to not settle for mediocre and continue to create life on my terms and continue to pour into my family and other people's families. So thank you.
It's a great goal.
Great goal.
Thank you for talking to us today. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Becky. Appreciate you guys.